Okay, well, it seems it's a very, very special time in all of our lives, everybody. Hence the mood lighting, because we have the second coming of the Messiah. I'm not talking about Jesus, although he perhaps thinks he is. No, I'm talking about Shawn, VenomFailX. He has once again graced us with his presence on YouTube. Except he's not going to grace us with his presence on YouTube. Oh, but he has graced us with his presence on YouTube. He doesn't seem to know whether he's back on YouTube. How the hell are we supposed to know? But listen, Shawn, it appears you are back. Merry Christmas, Shawn. Merry Christmas, everybody else. And Christmas isn't something that I'm worried about celebrating. I've always celebrated Christmas. I get a bit wound up when people try and wheedle in a bit of religion into the true commercial festival that is modern day Christmas time. But, you know, that's another story. Shawn's back. I'm going to lay off the ad hominems, although I've done a few already. I want to deal with the things he actually has to say. Shawn says he's not going to try and wind people up, piss people off, offend people. Although it's very difficult not to do that, Shawn. I promise you. You will offend somebody. It's impossible not to offend. You know, you can keep some of the people unoffended some of the time, but you can't keep all the people unoffended all of the time, or something like that. So just bear that in mind, Shawn. But I want to deal with the topics. You've produced 2 videos. There's no way I can respond to everything you've said, but I want to pick out some bits. So, ladies and gentlemen, Shawn.
Hello there. Today we're going to be talking about the meaning of life.
Okay, well, anybody who's ever watched any of my response videos will know that if I make a response video to a video that somebody's already made response videos to already, I always try and look at it from an original angle. If I can't do that, I don't bother making a response video. But I've got to do this, even though everybody else has said this. The video's called The Meaning of Life. He says that by the end of the video, we may have some idea of what the meaning of life is, and he never discusses at any point the meaning of life. He's made a follow-up video and he still doesn't discuss the meaning of life. I'm going to have to breathe now. And now for something completely different.
Here's the argument in a nutshell. Our beliefs are only as good as the reasons for believing them. However, if nature is the only thing responsible for the construction of our brains, and nature neither contains logical or reasonable functions in the sense that it doesn't have a cognitive function of reason or logic, it follows that anything we think is totally untrustworthy, if evolution were true.
You know, I keep listening to this. I've heard this so many times, and I still don't understand it. I understand the premises, I understand the conclusions, I just can't see a linkage between them. It's not that I don't understand the linkage, I can't see it. I've seen thousands of videos on YouTube that I vehemently disagree with, arguments made that I just don't agree with. But I understand nearly every one of them. I don't understand this one. I keep watching it, I'm feeling really stupid. I just don't understand it. I don't see, it just seems to go from one thing to another. So I'm not going to go down those lines. Shawn, I'm going to leave other people to deal with that. I'm going to assume that what you say is true. That if evolution is true, we have no basis for anything. We have no basis for believing anything. We have no basis for trusting anything. This is the problem. This is what I need you to answer me, Shawn. This is my point that I'm bringing to you, which is that evolution isn't true. Then we have no basis for believing anything. I need to expand on that. Shawn is a young earth creationist. He believes the earth is 6,000 years old. He believes the Genesis account is literal. He's saying if this isn't the case, if this is not the case, then we have no basis for believing anything. Okay. But how much science, how magnificently wrong does science have to be for evolutionary theory to not be right? How magnificently wrong does science have to be for the whole of geology and cosmology and all these different sciences, for dendrochronology, for radiometric dating, for all these different things to be so terribly wrong? You have torn science asunder. Science doesn't work anymore then, Shawn, does it? And what is science? Is science just some abstract undertaking that really we could just brush under the carpet? Or is science actually just basically the same thing we do every single day? Well, I contend it is. That science is basically, it's the process of trial and error. It's the basis of you do things a couple of times and get the same result. Might be something in it. Do it 1,000 times and get the same result. There probably is something in it. Even my cat does that. If my cat goes up to my neighbour and the neighbour boots it in the slats, my cat learns something from that. If my cat goes up to the neighbour again and the neighbour kicks it in the chops, the cat learns something more. And if the neighbour keeps doing that a few times, the cat keeps well alone. The more samples the cat gets, the more resolute does the cat become to stay away from my neighbour. The more times my neighbour feeds my cat, the more often the cat goes to my neighbour. It's exactly the same as the scientific procedure. You do the experiment, you get the results, and you see, is there a correlation here? You see, science mimics life. It's just the same thing. All we're doing in science is just putting a structure to the thing that we've been doing for millions and millions of years. And yet what you're saying is actually science is all terribly, terribly wrong. It's been so unforgivably wrong about these specific things that you're talking about. What choice do we have but to stop trusting science? What choice do we have with your worldview but to stop trusting our own sense of judgment? You see, the problem is what you're doing is you're waggling your pen in front of my face and saying, unless you can't see my pen, your eyes don't work. But the problem is, unless I can see the pen, my eyes don't work. Can you see the problem? And the very fact that you've created such a problem makes me think, without even being able to understand your argument, that there must be a fatal flaw there if I could possibly figure the damn thing out. I want to move on to Shawn's second video now, because he selectively picks at a few arguments, but he misses the difficult ones. I'm going to bring the difficult ones to you now, Shawn.
Even if you want to say consciousness is an emergent property from the brain, it still obeys the laws of nature, and we still cannot then be responsible for anything we think, say, or do, because we wouldn't have choice. We would be caused by the laws of nature, because, again, anything that violates the laws of nature would be supernatural.
Okay, so the question is, Shawn, how does invoking a soul actually solve anything? What is it that you're going to blame the soul for that you can't blame the brain for? Because either the soul or the brain has to act on information. It's the same information in each case. And a soul is going to have predispositions. It's going to have a character, isn't it? The same as the brain has a character. What else is there? What else is there other than predispositions and information? Randomness? Is that it? Does the soul have a random characteristic? So we're going to blame the soul for a random decision that it has no control over. A choice is imposing your predispositions, your preferences, your predilections on the information that is available. It doesn't matter whether you're a soul or a brain. So what is this extra component of free will that you're saying a soul brings? I've got a video that extrapolates, that expounds, I should say, on these ideas a bit more. You can watch that if you like. I'm running low of time. Let's listen to Shawn's other argument.
Consciousness, or reason, which I've demonstrated in the first video, is rather unnatural or supernatural, can only express itself in the physical body and brain. I believe that there are substances outside of the universe. So other kinds of substances that are not part of the natural world, that are not part of the laws of nature.
Okay, so once you've responded to my first question and told me what a soul can be blamed for that a brain can't, other than using its predispositions to respond to the same information, other than randomness, which surely you can't blame anything for randomness, other than these things, what can a soul bring you? Once you've done that, I understand your response to this other guy. You want to push your soul out the universe as far away as you can, don't you? Because you want to make it undetectable. Your position relies on it being undetectable. And yet you're saying it is detectable. It's detectable by the brain. It's interacting with the neurons in our brain all the time. It's interacting with the atoms and the molecules in our brain, and yet it's undetectable by the materialistic world. But these atoms and these molecules are part of the materialistic world. They're the same atoms and molecules that our laboratory equipment is made from. Your problem with your soul is that it can remain totally undetectable in its other universe until it tries to interact with the brain. If it's interacting with the brain, it's interacting with our world, and we would be able to detect it. We can't detect it. That's a huge conundrum. It's an imponderable, but it's an imponderable that you're creating by manifesting this immaterial soul that we don't need to bring. We don't need to invoke this soul. We have a good explanation without it, Shawn. So please explain to me how this soul communicates with the materialistic world but is undetectable by the materialistic world, because that one's got me. That one has totally got me. Well, once again, Merry Christmas, Shawn. Merry Christmas, everybody. It's Christmas Eve. I may be on my own making a video Christmas Eve, but I won't be Christmas Day. Merry Christmas, everybody. Take care.